Hello everyone, this is Gecko Days. It's been a long time. I thought I'd do another video on how to make your own cheap and cheerful, but hopefully unique reptile and I suppose invertebrate furnishing for your enclosure. I'm re-recording the sound on the video, so my voice might not sync with the images. When I played it back, there was so much wind noise from the video. It didn't sound very good. Anyway, so what I've basically done before this video was shot, what I'm showing you here is the difference between the inside of, I think it was a carrier for McDonald's for some cups, which hasn't been treated, and the outside has been treated. Everything else has been treated with 2 coatings of water and PVA. I use cement tone PVA. It's actually used for household bricks, for waterproofing. I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure what it waterproofs. It's waterproofs rain, I guess, getting into your brickwork. You don't have to use that one. It's what I had. It does smell, so it does take quite a while for the smell to dissipate, compared to maybe some non-smelling PVA stuff you'd get. And I just dilute it down with water, as you'll see in a minute. So basically, what I've done on everything except for that cup holder thing on the bottom right hand side, you can see at the moment, on both sides of everything I've done 2 coats of the PVA and water solution. The majority of stuff you can see there is cardboard, so obviously it will go quite soggy and soft and sloppy, but once it hardens up it goes pretty tough. What I'm digging in now is some excavator clay that I have reduced back to its original compound. It's some stuff that I'd tried to make, didn't look very good. I'd kept it in the bag, and then I thought I'll use it at some point, and I'm going to use it today. And that is just some old substrate that I've taken out from one of my enclosures, and I'll be using that later on in the video, as you shall see. This plastic polystyrene is just an old polystyrene packing case that I've used. Can't remember what it was for. I've used a heat gun on it. If you're going to do that, it stinks, so make sure you're doing it outside or in an extremely well ventilated area. But personally, I would do it outside, and it still stinks. So what I'm going to do in the video is show you what I do. Unfortunately, I will be going out of shot a few times, but I am going to speed the video up so it's not going to last forever. I should be coating the items with another coat of PVA and water, and then covering them with a layer of substrate, and I will be doing that twice. This is just the first version, because obviously it won't dry quick enough. I shall then dry it. It's quite a nice warm day today, so it should dry today, but I should do the next lot tomorrow. And the polystyrene thing that you can see there that I'm holding now is going to be used as a bioactive part of the enclosure. So rather than do a full bioactive enclosure, I'm going to do a partial one. So I should be covering the bottom of that polystyrene bit, because when I melted it and then I put the PVA stuff on, it did go quite hard and sharp, and if you're not careful, it is very sharp, so I'd be worried that the geckos might catch themselves on it. Yeah, what I'm holding up there is, well, let's just say it's a hat, shall we, that I'd cut in half, and I'm going to use it as, I don't know, maybe a hide or something. I'm not too sure yet. Obviously the polystyrene I'll be covering up with the outside of it I'll be covering with substrate, but the inside of it, that's what that excavator clay and water on the top right is for. And I'm just fizzing through the video quickly just so it's not taking too long. I might not talk for the entire video. I'll put some nice music in so you can listen to it. I've no idea what I was talking about here. This is where it's gone out of shot, unfortunately. I just thought that cup holder thing was quite an interesting would you call it, structure. It might not work, but I'm thinking, well, if I can cover all those little holes up and maybe just make 1 or 2 entrances in there, it'll be an ideal hidey hole for small geckos. Well, up to probably juvenile size, because they do get into small areas. But anyway, as you can see now, what I'm going to do is slop on some of the mixed PVA with water. As I say, you can use any brand. I believe there are some PVA stuff which isn't what's the word I'm after, that doesn't smell as much. I just daub it on, and unfortunately I do go out of shot, but basically all I'm doing here, I'm sprinkling on the substrate, and I'm going to just do both sides of it, because it says a nice warm day, so it should dry fairly quickly. And I shall do a minimum of 2 coats to see how it looks, and after I've put the second coat on, I shall then be putting another coat of the PVA solution on top, just to not necessarily waterproof it, but just to make sure it all sticks in place. Now I'm using cardboard. I've already got one in a leopard gecko enclosure which is made of cardboard, which I did on a previous video, and it's been in their enclosure for quite a few months now, and actually it's probably their favourite hide, because it's quite long, and I've put a very small entrance to get into it, so they have to squeeze into the entrance. They feel a lot safer getting in there, I think, than they do going into some of the stuff you can get from, I'm not picking on pets at home, but from any form of a reptile shop where you can buy their hides. The hide entrance is quite big, but obviously it has to be of a size for a variety of different reptiles. When you're making your own, you can obviously make the size of the entrance whatever size you need. So I think personally the smaller it is, the better the leopard geckos like, because it makes them feel a bit safer when they're in there. I could be completely wrong there. Okay, so I'm just daubing some stuff onto that cup thing now. The inside, the underneath of it, I daubed with just the PVA, because I hadn't actually done the underneath of it. I'd forgotten for some reason when I did it. Always keep your area, that sounds wrong, always keep your area clean, people. I obviously was doing this outside. If you're doing it inside, if it's not particularly good weather, make sure that you put, well, I would say dust sheets down, or some kind of sheets down, not newspaper or anything, because it gets wet, and particularly if you've got carpet, you're going to get stains on your carpet. But put plenty of dust sheets down in a big wide area. And also, if you've got one, I'm using the top of a box here that came with one of my enclosures. And what I'm going to do now is blob the. It's a little bit wet, to be fair, the excavator clay. As you saw, I've daubed it with. I'm just putting a bit more. Heat gun went a bit too wild there, and I made 2 holes which I've had to cover up with a bit of cardboard. So I'm just basically putting on, it's a bit wet, it'll take a bit long to dry, but putting on the excavator clay into what I feel are the rather sharp areas, so it'll flatten out the bottom a little bit. Thought I'd made a bit of a mistake, because I was thinking, oh crap, all the excavator clay is going to fall out and drip out the sides. Luckily it didn't. Towards the end of the video, or at the end of the video, I'll give you a quick showing, because it's the following day today. I'm re-watching this and recording this vocally, obviously. So I'll give you an idea of what they look like once the first coating of substrate has gone on. And then I might redo another video and do it as a part 2, and try and get the things in shot a bit better, because I do realise that now I'm watching it back, you're not really seeing a lot of what was going on. Problem at the moment is I can't bend down very far at all, because I'm off with a bad back at work, so I can't really do a lot. So I couldn't lean far enough forwards to put this further into the video shot. I did think it was close enough. It's unfortunately it's not. It's not too bad, but I'll try and do another one with a wider angle shot where you're glad to see my knobbly knees sticking out on the video. But that's pretty much the end of this video. So I know I said I wasn't going to talk, but obviously I did. Okay, so as promised, this is the first. Oh, excuse me, it's my back. This is the first coating of the substrate. It's dried off from yesterday, and as you can see, what I think is the one of the nicest structures. You may not agree. Obviously, I've got to coat the inside of this yet, but I have only put one coat of PVA stuff on, so I might do another coat, one coat, and then bung the substrate on. But I've got to do another coat of substrate on top of that, so that's pretty interesting. Those have come out really, really well. Again, they'll still need another coat of substrate on, and the reason why I put two coats of substrate on is mainly because it's cardboard. So if they do get damp, there's how many coats? There's two coats of PVA, one coat of this, another coat of PVA, another coat of substrate, and another coat of PVA on top. So even if they do get wet, nothing should get through to the cardboard underneath and make them go rotten. But you know, if they do, they haven't cost anything really, so I'd just replace them. That's the top of one of the egg boxes, which can be just used as a little hide. That's obviously the bottom of an egg box, which again I'm not really sure what to do. Substrate hasn't stuck particularly well on that one, but it's not too bad. That was the top of one of those. I just cut it out, and again you can see it can be just used as a hide. That hole there, if the substrate is deep enough, the geckos will quite happily dig a burrow big enough under there and be able to squeeze under that. This was, as we said, well, they're used like that, but let's pretend it was a hat that I've cut in half. And again, these have come out relatively well. You can see there's some substrate missing. That's why I do a minimum of 2 coats of substrate. It might be I need a second coat of substrate on top, but I've got those. And the last and final piece, and these are, these are pretty light, so it's not going to put too much weight in the enclosure. This, however, is a big old lump because it's got all that excavator clay underneath. It's still wet. It'll take a good few days for that to solidify and harden up before I'm able to use it, but that now makes a nice base layer to be able to use for a bio enclosure part. I'm going to basically cover the rest of it with this substrate, but to be fair, it's going to go into a corner of one of the enclosures. So for example, it would be in a corner like that, so you won't see that side and you won't see that side because it's going to go in a back corner. The only side you will see is that one. There'll be no heat within it, so it can also be used. I shall put a hide on top of it, so it can also be used as a cold hide if the geckos wish to use it. And the only animals or cleanup crew will be springtails and the orange woodlice, which apparently geckos will eat. So that is going to be the, it is quite a weight, the biological part of the enclosure, hopefully. And just on a quick note, this is why I say make sure you use something if you're doing it indoors to protect your floor, because that now is glued in really hard onto the cardboard. Okay, folks, that is the first stage of making your own leopard gecko. Well, in my case, leopard gecko, but making your own reptile and or invertebrate, let's call it furniture. Thank you very much.